Hello and welcome to Ironman 70.3 Auckland, coming to you from the City of Sails, Auckland, New Zealand, where the show never stops. This event also doubles as the 2015 Ironman 70.3 Asia Pacific Championship. The 70.3 refers to the total distance in miles, so that's 113 kilometres. It's also half the distance of a full Ironman event.
A very strong field outside of the World Championship has assembled to contest this race, including 5-time World Champion Craig Alexander, 10-time Ironman New Zealand Champion Cameron Brown, and Kiwi favourite Terenzo Bozzoni.
I like to think of myself as a crowd favourite. No, but I mean, it's great. The spectators out here, they just make this event what it is.
Do you absorb that as you go around the course?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I take as much energy as I can from the spectators. When they're yelling and screaming, that's what I live for. I'm here. I want to race well, of course, but I want to put on a great show, and that's what we all thrive for. I mean, the racing good, the results they're great, but having a good day out there and putting on a good show is what it's about. It's the Asia Pacific Championships, the Auckland Ironman 70.3. It's the first championship race of the year. It's the first race of the year, and good prize money, good points on the line, and of course a stellar field. You've got Brownie, Crowe, Tim Reed, a bunch of other guys. It's going to be a tough day. Just looking forward to being a part of it.
And hot off winning the Port of Tauranga half, Craig Alexander is in fine form.
Welcome back to Auckland.
It's great to be back. You know, when the sun's shining here, this is one of the prettiest cities in the world. I've been here all week, and yeah, really looking forward to the race this weekend. I think, you know, we don't get the opportunity to race in big cities anymore, and you know, there's not too many race courses as scenic as this. It's one of the bigger titles up for grabs on the triathlon calendar, and it attracts, you know, world-class triathletes in great shape. Names count for nothing on Sunday. It all depends on the work you've done the last 3 months and what kind of form you're bringing on Sunday.
Crowe defying the toils of age, a superb athlete, and likewise Meredith Kessler, top women's seed.
There is a few people going around saying, you know, Meredith Kessler, such a strong swimmer, she'll get out of the water first and you won't see her again.
At the end of the day, I'm just going to swim, bike, and run as fast as I can and try not to crash on all the twists and turns. I can be very conservative in that capacity, so that's what I'm trying to really work on. This is a technical course for me. That's not my strong suit, which is why I wanted to come here and really challenge myself in all the twists and turns on this beautiful city. So I'm looking forward to that challenge too.
Looking to spoil her Auckland summer, Kiwi Gina Crawford is seated number 2.
First time racing here, what's your anticipation?
I'm excited about it, to be racing in New Zealand on a course I haven't actually done before. I hear it's a technical course, so I'm a little bit nervous about the bike ride, but I'm really looking forward to the swim and the run.
Yeah, you've been racing halves and Ironman for a number of years now. Do you feel like you've got a target on your back?
Not so at this distance. I'm definitely an iron distance specialist who uses the halves to try and get stronger for that distance. How I can explain it is that when I'm on the Ironman course, after about 5.5 hours, a switch goes off and I'm off. So when I race the half distance, I never really get that switch going off. I really enjoy the distance, and I just go out there and do the best I can.
Auckland's own Cameron Brown returns for 2015 as he builds up for Ironman New Zealand in March.
Having it here in your hometown, I mean, it's just such a wonderful event, isn't it?
Yeah, it's easy for me, you know. I'm on the outskirts of Auckland, so I'm only 20 minutes drive, so it's not many times that you get an international field and racing on your home sort of circuit.
You raced last weekend, Cameron. How's the body?
Yeah, hopefully pretty good. You know, I had sort of 3 solid days and then another 3 easy days, so hopefully the legs are going to, you know, come up nicely for this race, and it'd be great if I can run like I did last year here.
Who are you going to be up against?
Oh, definitely, yeah, Craig Alexander. You can't, you know, he's a 5-time world champion. Terenzo Bozzoni, Tim Reed, Tim Van Berkel. All those guys, you know, there's a few other Aussie boys that'll be, you know, leading the swim as well, so it's going to be pretty tough right from that swim.
And rising Aussie Tim Reed is looking to improve on his 5th here last year.
Well, Tim Reed, welcome to Auckland again.
Yeah, absolutely. I've loved this race the last couple of years. I think the course really lends itself to my style of racing, and so yeah, I was really keen to get back and give it another crack.
What have you learned over the previous 2 years?
I think the swim's really crucial here. The draft distance between riders means there's a bit of an advantage riding with the group, and both years I haven't swum very well, so I've come into this race, I hope a lot more, with a lot more time in the pool.
Some of the elite athletes vying for the 2015 Asia Pacific title on a picture-perfect day in Auckland. Let's get a close look at the course with our virtual eye flyover. We're in the Southern Hemisphere and Ironman 70.3 Auckland, New Zealand. based at the Viaduct Event Centre in the heart of Auckland's revitalised waterfront, the 1.9 kilometre swim starts alongside Prince's Wharf. On the starter's gun, athletes swim into the Waitemata Harbour, to the North Wharf and finally into the Viaduct Basin. After swimming under the Wynyard Crossing Bridge, they exit up the Karanga Plaza steps and head into transition. Elite competitors should exit the water in around 23 minutes.
From transition, riders cut through Auckland's Wynyard Quarter streets out onto West Haven Drive, riding alongside the motorway and the marina as the first leg heads north. Riders loop under and then up onto the Auckland Harbour Bridge, the iconic landmark linking to Auckland's North Shore. Riders push uphill along the Northern Busway before taking in the suburban streets of Rosedale. Returning to Auckland's Wynyard Quarter and around North Wharf's Tank Farm, they now take on two shorter laps of a southern course. Out through the Viaduct Harbour streets and along Tamaki Drive, the athletes speed past Ports of Auckland and around the waterfront bays to a turnaround in St Heliers, the base for the original Ironman New Zealand. Then it's back to the Wynyard Quarter before a repeat of the southern course, 1 lap northbound and 2 laps southbound. Elite athletes should power through this 90-kilometre bike leg in around 2.25 hours.
The run section of Ironman 70.3 Auckland heads out on the paved walkway around the Viaduct's waterfront apartments and Auckland's prominent Prince's Wharf, taking in the same waterfront roads as a cycle to an earlier turnaround on Tamaki Drive. Then it's back to the Auckland Viaduct, turning just short of the event centre. Athletes head back out for lap 2, a repeat of lap 1, 21.1 Ks. The elites should complete this in just over an hour. Standing by for a start here in the race outside the New Zealand Maritime Museum, elite men first away, Phil Rockner.
And it is a good field, isn't it? We've got multiple Ironman champions, we've got world champions in this field, and it should be fast from the outset.
So very good conditions for swimming today, Phil, as they head straight along Prince's Wharf to turn left out into the open part of the viaduct. As
you can see already, Cam, they're getting a little bit of a separation in this field. The fast swimmers start to come to the front, and everybody's trying to grab legs because drafting in the swim certainly does help.
And it's only 1.9 Ks, so for these guys, it's really fast, really furious. It really goes on right from the start.
It's a sprint. In the olden days when they first started doing halves, it tended to be more of an endurance event. But with the finessing of this sport, we're seeing a lot faster efforts now.
So you can see the pack is already starting to stretch out a bit, Phil, which does go back to your point of the pace.
It's an absolute sprint for the 1.9 kilometres. As we see our women's race now starting, Meredith Kessler should get to the head of affairs pretty shortly.
And it will be up to these girls to make sure she doesn't get too far away from them as they do start forming into a pack. But you would think that Meredith will get out to a flyer. As we go back to the men's race, you're going to turn left here. And it looks like Dylan McNeese in the lead right now.
And it is perfect conditions here. It's flat, it's calm. They can sight the boys. You see them looking ahead as they go through this event. And what they're going to be looking for is the next buoy, the next turning, because they want to make sure they're going to get a straight line.
And you're exactly right there, Phil. And as you look at this women's pack, you want to try and stay as close as you can to the leader for obvious reasons, but Meredith Kessler is off on that flyer.
It's so hard to grab her feet in the swim because she sets off at a ripping pace. And as you can see there, she swims to the side, looks to the side, then she looks forward to make sure she's swimming straight. And it's very hard to get on her feet.
We're only through a couple of 100 metres of this race, and Meredith Kessler is off, and she's way out the front as we go back to the chasing pack, which includes Gina Crawford.
And she knows she's going to have to be chasing for most of this swim. She's absolutely recognised to that fact because Meredith Kessler's reputation well and truly precedes her as the gap is starting to open. But what she needs to do, Gina Crawford, is just limit the damage.
And when you've got quite a small elite women's field, there's not many people that can help you to try and bridge up that gap. You've got to do it all by yourself.
Yeah, there are no bodies around her to sit on. As we see the men's field, there are plenty of bodies around just to grab a pair of feet, sit on, get some drafting and save a little bit of energy.
Because you do save quite a lot of energy. It's a bit like cycling if you're in a pack. Swimming has that same effect, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is, and it's absolutely legal to do that. You can't draft on the bike in a 70.3 race. You certainly can in the swim, but the gaps, once they start to open, you're better off just conserving your energy and swimming to your own pace.
So you can see absolutely wonderful conditions as we look back up towards transition, and here's Meredith Kessler about to go left around this buoy.
And she's no stranger to this. She would have planned for this. Her coach, Mac Dixon, and her would have sat down and said, where can we make our gains? And, of course, that would have been in the water, as we see our men as well doing the same thing, the front two getting off the front and trying to establish a little bit of a lead.
So we have Dylan McNeese and James Sear starting to stretch these guys out a wee bit. A smaller second pack and then a big group of guys in the back.
And again, what's going through the athlete's mind at the moment is just to get the pair of feet in front of them, but keep everybody as close as they possibly can. As you can see, the men's really starting to string out.
Quite a few turns on this course, and so it does help that it's such wonderful conditions, as our elite men aren't too far away from heading into the viaduct itself and getting to the end of the swim, but Meredith Kessler still dominating the swim.
Yeah, it's a great open water stroke, isn't it? She's nice and high in the water, as you can see, looking forward to make sure she swims in a perfectly straight line and to make sure that she's not going to lose any places as she comes in off the swim and into transition.
So we talk about the pace, and you always know the pace is on when everyone stretches out, and this has stretched out like you wouldn't believe, with Dylan McNeice and James Sear in control of the swim right now.
Yeah, that's right. They're doing a nice job of getting away. And again, they would have sat down and thought, where can I make my gains and what can I do to get myself into the best possible position leading into the bike? And if you have got a good swim leg in a 70.3 race, you really need to use it.
So you can see a lot of our age group athletes in the background there. Big age group field here today. But Dylan McNeice, these good swimmers, Phil, they just look like it's so effortless, but they pull an enormous amount of water.
That's right. It's a lot of it's what they do under the water. Really strong catch and pull through when they put their hands under the water. And you can see that little chase group as well. They'll be quite content to where this is going because there's nobody who really could do massive damage has gone away.
And it's interesting too in that there is that little pack sitting in the second position, but as you go to the third pack, it has the likes of Craig Alexander and Cameron Brown in there, so the Wiley Foxes aren't too far out of touch.
No, and they'd be pretty happy with this because there really isn't an established swimmer like we've had in the last couple of seasons who can blow this race apart in the water in the men's field. In the women's field, Kessler's always going to do this, but even though we have got this lead at the moment with McNeice and it looks like Jimmy Sear, it really isn't or shouldn't do that much damage to the field once they head onto the bike.
Wonderful conditions for this, and as they swim straight through the Viaduct Harbour, lots of vantage points for people to be able to watch this race. But McNeice and Sear way out, or not way out the front, but off the front in the swim as we're getting towards transition.
And Mill Pond conditions there, as you can see, it's so flat, which means this is a very, very quick swim time for our athletes this morning.
So we've got these distinct packs. There's the two boys out the front, group of about 4, and then that main chase group. But they're very, very close to going up to the Karanga Plaza steps, and that's going under the Wynyard walkway there, around this Ironman buoy where you can see the kayaker up those steps and into transition.
Yeah, they say that you can't win a race in the swim, but you can certainly set yourself up for a good early part of your race by doing well aquatically.
Well, these guys, it's really just a warm-up for them, isn't it? But heading up around to the Karanga Plaza steps and heading through to the transition area, and they'll be very, very happy. Short work of the swim for Dylan McNeice and James Sear.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of a run too, so they'll find their land legs pretty quickly after exiting this swim, and then they've got to run straight through into T1, the first transition from swim to bike.
So you can just see them putting their heads up and making sure they're going in the right direction, and you can swim right up to the Karanga Plaza steps. Dylan McNeice, swim league leader, 23 minutes, very sharp swim.
Yeah, that's right, I guess aided by the wonderful conditions. And Jimmy Sear too has done a very nice job of just holding the feet of McNeice, as you can see them running there. The Kung Fu Koala on Jimmy Sear's kit there as they sneak through into transition.
Well, in this transition, these two guys are going to have a pretty clear run, but we get some of the bigger packs through. There's no friends too much as we see Craig Alexander coming up the stairs as well.
Yeah, Craig Alexander is a very good swimmer. The red painted up Paul Ambrose, former winner of Ironman Australia, has just exited as well.
So you see those first two bikes getting out of transition, and here's our next group of guys who are getting ready to go for the swim. We see Mark Bosted sitting in there just behind Craig Alexander as this bigger pack gets into transition.
Well, there are no timeouts in 70.3 racing as Jimmy Sear steps on the pedals and gets away. Lee Stabrilia coming out of the water. He's got a little bit of time to make up.
As we see these lead cyclists heading out through North Wharf, and they'll head around Tank Farm. Quite a technical part of the course they have to negotiate before they get out into the open road. And here's a big pack, no friends in here.
No, it's a little bit close, isn't it? You can see Craig Alexander exiting, Terenzo Bozzoni there putting on the helmet. There's Tim Reed and also Chucky Brown.
And so after that swim leg, Dylan McNeice and James Sear out the front, Joe Lampy, Callum Millward and Clark Ellis rounding out the top 5.
There's some pretty slick times there, as you can see in our women's race. There is the chase group as Meredith Kessler has left the building early in the swim.
Absolutely. So here we have Meredith Kessler is just up into the Karanga Plaza steps now, and she will be very, very happy with how she's gone. So 25 minutes, very sharp indeed from the women's leader.
Well, you can see she's picked up one of the back markers in the pro men's field to tell you how fast she's swimming. And she's done this regularly around the world, Meredith Kessler, winning races off the back of a strong swim.
So James Sear going, as we said, few corners at the start of this before they get into the open road, and he's negotiating that as Gina Crawford, second place woman right now.
And Gina will now just take a look at her watch and try and understand how far behind Meredith Kessler she is, but she's a good, experienced athlete and won't panic.
Amelia Watkinson coming out of the water, third place woman right now, young lady from Auckland, and she'll be very happy with how this is panning out for her as well. So the guys now on West Haven Drive, and Jimmy Sear is into the work and into a very aerodynamic position, and he'll be looping round and under and then over the top of the Harbour Bridge shortly. Our women's leader, Meredith Kessler, heading out of transition.
And she is away as more of our women's professionals exit the water in pursuit of the American Meredith Kessler.
As we see the elite women's swim league, Meredith Kessler dominating there, Gina Crawford, Amelia Watkinson, Anna Russell, and Amanda Boland rounding out the top 5. Beautiful shots up here at the Harbour Bridge, Phil.
It is, and it's actually quite steep. You can see the speed that Jimmy Sear, the race leader, is getting. And he's not doing a heck of a lot of pedalling at the moment, but he's coming down the back end of the Harbour Bridge, and he looks very aero at the moment as he just continues to push forward and lead this race.
So our leaders on the Northern Busway takes them on the northern loop of Auckland's North Shore for the 70.3 course, and they'll head up through the suburban streets of Rosedale and back towards town eventually. But right now, these two boys are trying to get a run on the rest of them as Dylan McNeese just slides on past James Sear.
Yeah, there's no drafting in this form of racing, so they need to make sure that there is a good gap between them, and that's what we're seeing there. Now, this is Tim Reed, who is one of the pre-race favourites and one of the real rising stars in triathlon.
As we see Paul Ambrose and that big group of guys just catching up on Dylan McNeese, so it hasn't taken them too long to reel everybody in, and one big group of guys now, Phil.
Yeah, that's right. You can see Ambrose swinging the gate a little bit as he pedals through. He looks like he's under pressure. There is Tim Reed wearing the budgie smugglers, the Speedos. That's what he's famous for, and he again is now starting to really push on those pedals and move his way up to the front and the head of affairs here of this race.
He's looking very comfortable, isn't he, and very focused with that as well.
There's a different pedalling style between those who do look really comfortable on the bike and those who might be exerting themselves just a little bit more, as we see them just starting to come to a little bit of an ascent here, and they all seem to sit up and get out of the saddle and push pretty hard.
As we see Mark Bosted, Cameron Brown right behind him, and yet there's a bit of a grinder coming up this part of the course. We see a group of our age group people coming through, and with all due respect to them, Phil, transitions a little bit less technical.
Well, that's right, but this is the beating heart of triathlon, the amateurs, the mums and dads, those that work the 9-to-5 jobs and then come out to race on the weekend.
So a stunning day that Auckland City has put on for us. Meredith Kessler, though, she is in the lead in this race, and she has still got that gap that she had out of transition. Gina Crawford sitting in second place.
Well, Meredith Kessler pushed very hard in the water to get this lead, and she will want to continue that on the bike. As Tim Reed, as you can see there, really out of the saddle, working his way up this climb. He just takes a little bit of a look around to see what sort of damage he does with each acceleration.
And he sees in the rearview mirror Mark Bosted as they're heading up on this northern loop. But the chase pack are not going to let them get too far away, especially someone the calibre of Tim Reed.
They're being very vigilant at the moment. They don't want to see anybody off the front right now. As you can see them all lined up there. There's no drafting, as I said, and they are being fairly respectful of that. But Paul Ambrose looks like he's got a case of the angry pills at the moment. He's really pushing hard. Speaking
of pushing hard, Meredith Kessler on this Northern Busway, and she's trying to get up this bit of a hill. She does sit in quite a big gear, doesn't she, Phil?
Well, that's right, she does. She is pushing her lower revs up this climb, as you can see now too. In the men's field, they're all bunched together, taking a good hard look at what each other's race strategies are early on.
I'll tell you, the strategy looks right now. The focus is on the face of Mark Bosted. He's going to have a go at this. He's going to see how much of a lead he can get on the cycle by the looks of it. I know he's a big fan of cycling as hard as he can for as long as he can. And as we see Gina Crawford holding second place right now.
She's motoring at the moment, Gina Crawford. She looks very, very strong. So too does Amelia Watkinson, who's fairly new to this professional game and doing a nice job early. Craig Alexander, no stranger to racing around the world. This is the 5-time world champion, and he's got a very high cadence going there. He's spinning those legs up the climb, and he's seen all this plenty of times before.
And we have a change in the lead in the women's race. And it's Gina Crawford has caught Meredith Kessler, but we're hearing from the course that Meredith has had a mechanical on her bike, dropped the chain, but she doesn't like being in second place, does she, Phil?
No, she doesn't, and what we're seeing here is her reaction to that bike mechanical.
So the women way up on that northern loop of the course as we head back to transition to some of our age group competitors, and great conditions for them to be swimming in today. Some big packs, lots of argy-bargy in there as we see Mark Rigger Richardson, and Rig, obviously former New Zealand opening cricket batsman, and out here doing 70.3 today.
Yeah, it's just fantastic to see so many amateurs getting to race at the same time on the same course as our professionals. It really is a great connection between the pros and those who look up to them.
Transition looks a bit like a teenager's bedroom at times, doesn't it, Phil? Things scattered everywhere.
That's right. Wonderful shots from our chopper as our male professional race really starts to heat up. That's Paul Ambrose, that's Dylan McNeice, and you can see that they are still spaced evenly apart as they drive their way up through this 90-kilometre bike leg.
Clark Ellis there, he's living on Auckland's North Shore now, so he knows exactly where he is as they head back towards the Harbour Bridge. And our women's race, Gina Crawford trying to stay in touch with Meredith Kessler.
Yeah, Meredith wants to put the foot down now. She had that little mechanical where her chain was giving her issues, but she's going to want to start to push hard now.
Mark Bosted going up and over the Auckland Harbour Bridge. Not very often you get to cycle over this, and the view is absolutely unbelievable as these two women, they're involved in a bit of a ding-dong now, aren't they?
Well, they are now. They're actually coached by the same man, Matt Dixon, out of San Francisco, and no doubt he would have had separate race plans for them, but this wouldn't have been part of the Kessler plan to be caught so early.
As the women are heading back towards transition, they're up at the Constellation Station at the moment, but the men's race, these leaders down on Key Street heading out towards Tamaki Drive.
And the men are mostly together, as you can see, that bunch still riding around, keeping an eye on each other as Meredith Kessler pushes hard to establish her lead after a mechanical. Her chain dropped off, and it looks like she's got a little bit of a gain on Gina Crawford.
Quite a big hill getting up and over the Harbour Bridge, but flat as a pancake out on Tamaki Drive, and Mark Bosted looking very, very strong, but Tim Reed still driving hard, isn't he?
Well, there is. You can see Tim Reed's there. You can also see Dylan McNeice is one of those drivers, as well as the 5-time world champion Craig Alexander.
As Gina Crawford heads around North Wharf Tank Farm, and so that just brings it through the back of the Viaduct Event Centre, and she'll be out onto Tamaki Drive shortly. And here we are at the St Heliers turnaround, Phil.
That's right, it's the original site of Ironman New Zealand. The men will make this turn. These bikes aren't made for turn. You can hear the squealing of the brakes as they get out of the saddle, push hard again, and just eyeball each other as they make the turn.
Women's race leader is Meredith Kessler. She's all by herself in this race right now, and she's just heading along Key Street, about to get onto Tamaki Drive. But Phil, a lot of our age group is still coming through transition at the moment.
Yeah, it is. It's great to see all these amateurs getting it done this morning. You can see they're just maybe ripping the top off of some nutrition and getting themselves set up for the 90-kilometre bike that awaits them.
So a staggered start here for the age group athletes, and so we see transition busy for most of the morning, and a lot of these guys are here to either complete this, others are trying to get themselves positioned to go to the 70.3 World Championships.
Well, that's right. It's off into Austria this year, the 70.3 Worlds, as Paul Ambrose once again really pushes hard. You can see there the gritting of the teeth. He's rolling a little bit, which means he's really putting the foot down and putting the speed up, and I think the same goes for Meredith Kessler as she sensed that the lead is now hers.
Ports of Auckland that she's going past there, so she's heading on out towards the turnaround as Mark Bosted, he's got himself a nice little lead here, Phil, as he's almost completed the first of the southern loops.
Yeah, he's got nobody except for the motorbike for company at the moment, Mark Bosted, and he looks like a ripping time trialist. He's got a perfect setup. He looks great when he does pedal that bike around. As you can see, an emptier transition area as Bosted makes the turn. But Cam, he's set up beautifully on that bike. He looks very, very sharp.
And he's done a lot of work on that. It's one of the aims he's had over the last few months. Does a lot of work with Cameron Brown as well, as Gina Crawford is in second position and is coming along this beautiful waterfront out towards the turnaround. But Mark Bosted, just around the back of the viaduct, he'll be at the Viaduct Event Centre in the turnaround very shortly.
Yeah, that's right. He's up on the drops at the moment, which means he's going through one of the more technical parts of the course. And this is another section here of the turnaround at St Heliers that Gina Crawford is also making her turn.
Tim Reed just looks so focused and determined. He's a real driver in all of this, as we've been talking about, and he just wants to limit those losses. He knows he can run faster than Mark Bosted, but you don't want him to get too far away.
No, there's a point to which he'll start to not panic, but he'll start to put the foot down just to keep Bosted in his sights.
Auckland looking pretty as a picture today, as Meredith Kessler is heading back towards town, just gone past the Parnell Bars, nice 60-metre outdoor pool here in Auckland. And the men's group, these guys, they're all eyeballing each other and trying to figure out what the game plan is, aren't they? As Tim Reed just has his head down and going for it.
This group is being driven by 3 or 4 guys at the moment. Tim Reed's definitely one of them. Craig Alexander's had a turn up front. We've also seen Paul Ambrose doing some work as well. And the other guys just seem at the moment content. As you can see Crowe talking to Tim Reed when he rides through, maybe giving a bit of encouragement to keep the pace high to make sure that Bostead doesn't steal a march on them that they can't repair come to the run.
As Meredith Kessler getting closer and closer to transition to complete her first loop, but well ahead of Gina Crawford right now. About a minute is the gap between first and second.
Yeah, the expectation was that she would go wire to wire, and after a little bit of a jolt from Crawford, she certainly has arrested the lead back towards herself as Dylan McNeice now decides to get a bit of work done at the front.
The thing with Dylan is he swims like a champion, as we saw in the swim league of this. He does cycle extremely well. As we see Cameron Brown, looks like he's trying to fiddle around with his top. I think he must have been working out. He's busted out of his top a wee bit.
Yeah, he looks enormous, doesn't he, for a triathlete? He's just taking on some nutrition at the moment, keeping his fuel reserves topped up as he knows that it's all going to come down to the run for someone like him.
As Mark Bostead is motoring along here in the lead at Ironman 70.3 Auckland, and this is an area he's cycled a heck of a lot over the years. But Meredith Kessler, she's just around the back of the viaduct, not far from the turnaround to go out onto the second loop of Tamaki Drive.
And Mark Bostead, as you can see here, making the turn. These are very good times for him at the moment. He's got the race by the throat as he pedals away and tries to build a lead that will get him into the podium for the run.
So Gina Crawford sitting in second place. The beauty of these loops around Tamaki Drive too is there are some turns in there, and you obviously come back in so you can see where your opposition is.
Yeah, that's right, and it's always good to eyeball those you are looking to beat. As we can see now, Cam Brown, the 10-time Ironman New Zealand winner, leading this big string of professionals, all in search of Mark Bostead, and he looks fantastic. He's rock solid on that bike. He's not swinging at all on his shoulders. He's not rolling as he just takes on some more fuel. He looks great.
He does look very good, and he'll be absolutely stoked. His older brother James is supposed to be competing today, but he's injured, unfortunately. But Mark Bostead doing extremely well, as is Meredith Kessler.
And she's no stranger to leading big races. She had a massive win last year at St. George in a really big pro-packed field, and she is very, very adept at just leading and keeping the lead all through. As you can see there, the crowd's coming in and giving a little bit of a cheer for Bostead, who again is just keeping those fluids topped up, but also keeping the speeds high.
So Gina Crawford around Kohimarama at the moment, and she's heading back towards transition in second place in this race right now. As we leave her and go through to where Mark Bostead is, just coming around North Wharf Tank Farm. So he'll head along here and turn left, and he'll be in transition.
Yeah, as you can see there, he's still really pushing hard, isn't he? He came out of that corner, got out of the saddle, and pushed for maximum effort.
So just coming along the front of the cafes and bars, a lot of people enjoying brunch while they're watching this 70.3, and Mark Bostead just has to negotiate a technical little area here, dismounts, run around the back of transition, and he's off for a run.
Hey, it's a wonderful feeling, isn't it, when you get off the bike and you run into transition and there is no bike there except yours. And Bostead will be getting a little bit of a buzz here from the crowd as he enters into T2, and that is our bike to run transition.
Exactly as you're saying, Phil, a very exciting time for Mark Bostead to be in the lead here at Ironman 70.3 Auckland. Swim bike combined time around 2.5 hours. But Mark Bostead just putting the runners on, and he's out here. I know his mum and dad and a lot of his friends and supporters are here, so they'll be stoked to see him coming out first. Yeah, well, it's an interesting time now, isn't it? You ride for the show and you run for the dough, as they say, and this is what's going to be happening and unfolding for the next hour as Bostead tries to hold off some of the best runners in the 70.3 world, and they're going to be chasing him down, looking for this Asia-Pacific title. So he's got a new coach now. Former New Zealand Athens Olympian Nathan Richmond is coaching Mark Bostead, and he's getting into his work quite well, quite nicely. Yeah, it's always a little bit of adrenaline once you leave T2. You've got the crowd behind you, you've got the venue announcers winding you up over the loudspeakers. It's a great time to be leading a race, but now the business starts and he's got to roll up his sleeves and try and hold off what's behind him. So from here, Mark will be running around a lot of the apartments, a lot of corners, a lot of twists and turns as he gets around the viaduct itself. But yeah, great support, great crowd. He'll be loving this right now.
And here comes the chase pack, headlined by Craig Alexander. And Craig Alexander got out to the front deliberately to lead these guys in. He doesn't want to get caught fifth or sixth bike as they come in. He wants to be well and truly out of the maelstrom that's going to unfold in the next 10 seconds.
Well, you don't want to be down the back of this, because if you're down the back, you've got to wait for everybody else. There is no waiting. You just kind of shove everything out there, but you do need space when you're so tightly grouped together in transition.
Well, this is why we call him the Pros Pro, because he actually got himself to the front to avoid this mess. As you can see, he's the first bike racked after Bosted. There's not a lot around him. He will ditch the helmet, put the runners on, and Craig Alexander is a master of getting transition done quickly.
And you can see Cam Brown's bike kind of falling over there, but he'll rack that back up again. But as we look through the top five, Mark Bosted with a nice little lead over Craig Alexander, Tim Reed, Paul Ambrose and Dylan McNeese. But big pack of guys running out now.
Well, a masterclass in transition by the five-time world champion Craig Alexander, who stole a march on everybody of nearly 300 metres as Bosted now continues to power his way through the run course.
And out of transition, Craig Alexander and Tim Reed were running like you wouldn't believe, as we see Cameron Brown and Callum Millward. But these guys are going to sort themselves out pretty quickly as we get out into this run course. But Mark Bosted, like you said, Phil, running scared and wondering how far away it is before these guys catch him up.
Well, there you can see the running form of Craig Alexander and Tim Reed at the moment. It's almost like the heir apparent that we see there as this race unfolds. And Tim Reed looks nice and comfortable. Crowe pushing the pace here, all in search of this man, Mark Bosted, whose fantastic bike leg has got him this lead.
And Mark Bosted is running extremely well. I know part of his race plan was just to cycle like a champion, which he did, hang on to the run as long as he can, and he's doing that right now. As we see Gina Crawford just coming through Mission Bay, so she's heading back towards transition.
And now Tim Reed has decided to take the initiative. He's now pulled ahead of Craig Alexander, and I must say he actually looks a little bit better than the five-time world champ.
So these guys running around Prince's Wharf, and at Okahu Bay is where Gina Crawford is. As we go back to these two, and they are both very motivated to run quickly. Here's Terenzo Bozzoni. He just hasn't had a great day today.
No, it hasn't been a great day for Terenzo, the man who came in wearing the number one. This is Callum Millward just leading Cam Brown. Cam Brown doing a very nice job of sitting in and just ticking over. He's a very metronomic runner. He'll be doing the same thing in the next 15 Ks as he was in the very first K.
So here's Tim Reed in second place, Craig Alexander hot on his heels in third. So they're just coming off Prince's Wharf. They're going to turn left and head out in Key Street into Tamaki Drive. And look at these wonderful shots of Auckland that we're getting here as these men are really getting into the run on the first loop of two.
Absolutely a beautiful part of the world to be having a race, as Meredith Kessler won't be taking in the sights just yet. She's still powering along in first place.
And speaking of first place, here's Mark Bosted flying along beside the ports of Auckland, and he'll be heading out towards the turnaround.
Well, Riley Smith just making his way into transition. He's had a little bit of an unhappy day, but he'll hope to redeem himself on the run.
Wonderful shots of Auckland. And here's Tim Reed stretching out from Craig Alexander a little. We've talked about the motivation of Tim Reed. He's been very focused all day.
He's very fit too come this time of the year. And this is Tim Burkle coming through. He had a wonderful result at the Ironman World Championships in Kona, where he was 7th. And again, not having the day that he would want, and just casually getting his way through transition.
Quite pedestrian. He's got a smile on his face though. But Mark Bosted really enjoying this local support, and this will be another area he's run a lot in the past. Mark Bosted in the lead here right now, and we're just looking now at Meredith Kessler in the lead for the women, and she's not far away from transition.
Not at all. She's made a very, very good break after getting caught by Gina Crawford. The mechanical seems to have worked itself out, and now Kessler is heading into transition to set herself up for the run.
So Meredith Kessler just needs to go along the front of the cafes and bars on North Wharf, and she'll be at the Viaduct Event Centre. So not too far away from entering transition and getting onto the run leg.
And the crowds will certainly build as she gets closer into transition, giving her all the encouragement she needs. And I'm fairly sure she's pretty confident now that this can be a race that she can win. But Mark Bosted now receiving the plaudits of the crowd as he makes the turn, and he'll be able to get a good look, Cam, at all those who chase him.
And that's the key to this on these turnarounds. And Meredith Kessler, she's just heading into transition, or she's having a few dramas trying to get through transition as well, Phil.
And as you can see there, the shoes just hit the ground a couple of times, causing the bike to rear up a bit. She looks a little bit flustered as she comes into T2, but she's a very good professional, is Meredith Kessler. She'll sort it out. She racks the bike, she ditches the helmet, gets on the runners, and she'll get on with the job.
So Meredith's swim bike time just short of 2 hours 55. And look, she really wants to get this right, so she sat down in transition. Not quite as quick, Phil, as we saw when those guys came through.
Now, she often refers to herself as a bit of a grandma when she sits down in transition. But look, it does the job, it gets it done, and she just signs off on all the details that you need to, like putting socks on to make sure that her run's comfortable. And take a look now, she's heading out and she looks pretty confident and pretty comfortable.
Well, you'd rather take your time and get it right than make a mistake. But we saw before that Tim Reed had stretched Craig Alexander a little bit, but Crowe, he's caught back up, and these guys, they're really running quickly now.
They certainly are, and here comes Gina Crawford coming into T2, and I reckon she'll be pretty happy with what unfolded in that second part of the bike. She didn't lose a lot of time, and she'll try and make that up on the run. But Meredith Kessler now is running for the Asia Pacific title and looks very, very fast early.
So Gina Crawford is about a minute and a half behind Meredith Kessler, and she'll get through transition as quickly as she can and head out onto the run course as well.
Yeah, and she's got some good legs, having had a win last weekend at another race of this distance, and she'll be confident in the fact that she can back up and continue that good form. But Meredith Kessler showing some very good form running early here, and I think she'll want to just extend her lead to get away from Gina Crawford, as we're almost going to see a 2-up time trial on the run.
And Gina Crawford, she's really been working. She basically deconstructed and reconstructed along with her coach her run, and she's going to see how that pans out for her today.
Well, it's all to do for our women's professionals as they take off. And we can see the men's here. We might be seeing a pass.
Well, Mark Bosted is hanging tough at the moment as we see Amelia Watkinson coming into transition. She's having a great race today, Phil.
Yeah, she's a young up-and-comer and no doubt gaining valuable experience by racing some of these more seasoned professionals.
Good transition from her too. She's getting through her work in that transition area quite quickly, out onto the run. And look, here it is, Phil. It looks like we've got the catch. And Tim Reed, nice little pat on the back to acknowledge Mark Bosted and the hard work he's done. But Mark Bosted, look at him. He's trying to get on the back and hang on as long as he can.
Well, yeah, you can see this long shot here. We've got our leader, Tim Reed, but also there is Leon Griffin, former world duathlon champion, and he is somebody to keep an eye on.
He is indeed somebody to keep an eye on as we see Anna Russell coming into transition, finish the cycle leg now, and she's having a good race today, the local Auckland athlete. But Meredith Kessler, she's way out in front at the moment, about a 2-minute lead right now, Phil.
Yeah, she's running well too, isn't she? She's got herself out of transition. She was a little bit flustered when she came in, but this is something that she'll be eating up. The lead, and no doubt she's enjoying that little bit of a shaded area because it's quite hot here today in Auckland.
It is hot. It's a stunning day for Auckland, and nice shot there over Prince's Wharf. But Tim Reed is absolutely on a flyer at the moment, and the new dad, Leon Griffin, right behind him.
That's right. 3 weeks ago, gave birth. His lovely wife gave birth and to a little boy, and saw him at the airport. He looked really, really tired, but I'm telling you now, he's showing no signs of fatigue at the moment as he's running himself into a very, very high position.
So they're not too far away from completing the first lap. Mark Bosted still hanging tough, but Craig Alexander right behind him.
Yeah, that's got to be a bit disconcerting when you've got a 5-time world champion and a most renowned runner sitting in behind you in a race like this.
So just around Prince's Wharf, and then that'll take them into the viaduct itself. And see Gina Crawford just running out there, but Tim Reed just looking over his shoulder just to see how far back Leon Griffin is. But Tim Reed very much in control of this race at the moment, as we see all these people anticipating the end of the first lap and supporting friends and family as they go through as well.
Well, that's right, and here come some more of our women's professionals.
So we have Julia Grant with Mel Burke right behind her, so these two have obviously had a really good battle as they headed through to transition. But confirming that top 5, Meredith Kessler in the lead, Gina Crawford, Amelia Watkinson, Anna Russell and Julia Grant rounding that out.
And Gina Crawford there just checking the watch to find out exactly how fast she's running, and she looks okay at the moment. She's tapping out a pretty good tempo. As you said, reconstructing that running style is a big ask for anybody who's been set in her ways. She looks like she's moving okay. As Tim Reed, though, looks like he's lengthening his stride. He is a very, very nice runner.
He's just bounding along, isn't he? And very, very motivated, very focused, and he is in... Wouldn't say in control of this race just yet, Phil. There's still another lap to go, but it's looking very good for him.
He said to us before the race, he said he was surprised how fast he got fit. And, of course, he came off a very, very big 2014. And I think he starts to move now from rising star to legitimate hitter at every event he goes to.
So he's halfway through the half marathon now and just glances over to see where Leon Griffin is. And Leon will be loving the position he's in right now as well and trying to bridge up to Tim Reed.
That's right. Leon Griffin has a Rolls-Royce engine. Unfortunately, the body has sometimes let him down through injury, but when it is going, it is very, very good for Leon Griffin as Meredith Kessler continues to tap out a very fast pace at the head of affairs in the women's race.
So she's almost at the turnaround and ready to come back as we see this wonderful shot of Auckland, and the CBD is exactly where all this is happening right now in the Auckland 70.3 race.
It's a fantastic movement to shut down a city of this size as the athletes, both the age groupers and the professionals, no doubt thrilled to be racing such a great course.
So some of the age groupers will still be going over the Harbour Bridge there, but here we are at the head of affairs, and Meredith Kessler has just completed that turnaround and is heading back towards the transition, and that'll be the end of her first lap. So halfway through the first lap right now.
As you can see, a very nice and efficient running style by Kessler. She gives no energy away in the top half of her body. She's tapping out a very, very nice race at the moment.
Here's Matt Franklin, a young New Zealander, expecting big things from Matt as time goes on, having a go at a half Ironman today, and he'll be very happy with the experience he's picking up.
Well, there's a few young pros in the field at the moment, just gaining their experience, unlike Franklin there. And there is a little thumbs up from Meredith Kessler as Gina Crawford makes the pass. And you can see Gina checking her watch as well to find out what the deficit is.
And that shows the wonderful character of Meredith Kessler, that she will give that acknowledgement to second place, trying to encourage Gina along as well. But she is just running so well right now.
That's right. She's one of the nicest people in triathlon. Ex-age grouper turned into a professional and is winning races, and it's a great story.
And here's Tim Reed. And Leon Griffin, that gap hasn't really grown that much, but Tim Reed obviously will back himself against Leon Griffin, but these two are really getting out a decent lead now.
Yeah, they are rolling along nicely, but that spectre of having Leon Griffin so close would be a little bit disconcerting for our leader, Tim Reed.
As we go from the leaders of the men's race to the leaders of the women's race, and through an aid station, well in control right now is Meredith Kessler, and she's heading back towards transition to complete her first lap, but looking great right now.
And Joey Lampy makes his way through. Had a great swim, not so good on the bike, but it is room for improvement, no doubt. He'll live to fight another day, as most of our professionals who might not have had the best day always tune in to the next race for themselves.
So as we look over, the Viaduct Event Centre is away to our right, and just in the foreground there is exactly where Tim Reed is running right now, going back past the ports of Auckland, along Key Street and heading out towards Tamaki Drive. This is flat, it is fast, and he is proving that right now.
Yeah, that's right. He really knows that now is the time for him to make the move to get away from Leon Griffin. Does not want to get into a athletic punch-up with Leon Griffin, because Griffo is notorious for stealing marches and doing very, very nicely in close finishes.
So it's very warm today, so these guys, hydration is the key to it. The temperature is in the high 20s at the moment, but these guys will be going through the second lap and getting back to the finish line in a little while.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of a mental thing as well when the athletes are running so hard and they know that they've got people pressing. It really becomes a little bit about what's between the ears and the confidence that you have in the early season form. And here's Leon Griffin, former world duathlon champion. He's won multiple 70.3 races around the world, and certainly it looks very comfortable at the moment.
He does look very comfortable, doesn't he? And I guess for him right now, he's running along thinking to himself, right, I'm in second position, I can see first. It'd be interesting to know if he's going to make that move to try and pan up at some point. But here's Terenzo Bozzoni.
Yeah, he wears the number one, and he certainly has not had a day that he would like to remember. It's hard to understand there exactly what's going on with him, but no doubt he will, again, as Joey Lampy will, live to fight another day. As Cam Brown here bursting out of the race suit.
Yeah, he's had a bit of a wardrobe malfunction, but that's okay. So Cam Brown, and it looks like Craig Alexander in behind him, a couple of the wily old foxes tearing it up on the course.
Look, we've seen these guys lock horns all around the world in triathlons, and it's always fun to watch them race. Gina Crawford now not looking as happy as she did a little while ago. She's starting to look like she's a bit stiff in the legs there.
It does look like that, but you know, the professionalism of these this field is that if it starts going badly, there's always plan B or C to get yourself through to the finish.
Absolutely. It's a series of downgrading or upgrading as your form dictates. And you can see there in this long shot, a great shot there of Meredith Kessler. The bike in front is the lead bike. Here comes Leon Griffin again. Probably knows that this race is starting to slip away just a bit.
And there's a good opportunity as Leon goes back to find out exactly where third position is sitting. And here he is in third position right now, the local legend, Cameron Brown.
boy, he's come to this race in some very good form. Here is Craig Alexander too. The 40-plussers are doing a very nice job of keeping themselves in that top 5. And again, he looks a little proppy, doesn't he, Crowe? He raced a week ago, as did Cam Brown. Looks like Brownie's recovered a little bit better.
While you're motivated, why not keep racing? Both these guys in their early 40s, they're both motivated to keep fit. They're both motivated to train well and hard, and they're both doing it.
Well, Meredith doing a great job. Here's Marcus Holmgren from Sweden. Have a look at that hair, the beautiful kind of mullet flowing in the breeze there. But Tim Reed is now a man on a mission. He's made the gap, and there is a significant opening between himself and his pursuer in Leon Griffin.
No opportunity to relax at all here for Tim Reed. And we see Meredith Kessler. Look, she's giving the crowd a bit of a wave, probably saying thank you to the volunteers as she goes around the turn to complete the first lap of 2.
So relaxed, isn't she? I mean, she probably knows now that it's a good race for her and a good position in which she's found herself in. Gina Crawford still tapping out a good tempo, though. It looks like she might have recovered a little bit earlier from the first lap blues that she was having. But certainly it is Meredith Kessler looking calm and organised as she gets around this course.
So there we had the turnaround, as Phil was suggesting. But here we go for Tim Reed. So he's just heading around the back of the viaduct at the moment, and he's not too far away from coming towards the finish line here.
Yeah, the little man with the budgie smugglers who is known around the world for getting it done in the Speedos. It's a little trademark that he's niched himself into in the past couple of seasons. And a good pro too. He's done up the jersey. He's put the number around the right way. The cap's all nice and sharp. He looks very, very good.
He's given it a fist pump, and so he should be. Lots of high fives, giving it the airplane as he comes down towards the finish line. And here he is, the winner of Ironman 70.3 Auckland and the Asia Pacific champion, Tim Reed from Australia.
3:49.40, great time by Tim Reed, the new Asia Pacific champion, and his resume just continues to get better and better.
70.3 Auckland, Asia Pacific champion. Tim Reed, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks so much. It was a battle out of that swim. You know, I was a little bit back and had to ride really hard to get back in the mix, and then it was, you know, I knew it would come down to a running race, and thankfully the legs were there. I felt that if I just stayed up near the front the whole race and really just kept the pace on, I felt that I was strong enough to be in the mix, and you know, and it worked out that way. I got to 10 kilometres in the run. I thought, I've still got another gear, everything's good, and it was yeah, it was happy days for that last bit of the run.
Absolutely stoked. Honestly, didn't come here thinking I'd get on the podium, so you know, you always want to win, but I'll certainly take second today. Tim was a fantastic winner. He went out really aggressive out of that run, got probably 10-15 seconds on me, and I could just never pull him back, and he stretched it out a little bit in the end, but you know, happy with second.
And running out his day, one of the icons of the sport, Craig Alexander waves to the crowd in 4th place, and Cam Brown took out 3rd.
You'd be very happy in front of friends and family to have them out here and to perform well.
Yeah, no, it's great to perform, you know, in an international field, you know, in your hometown. So it's fantastic. You know, it's first Kiwi home today, so that was pleasing. You know, those Aussie boys were just a little bit too quick today, but I'll take 3rd.
And he'd be very happy with 3rd place in his hometown of Auckland. We have Tim Reed, who has won this Asia Pacific Championship, Leon Griffin in 2nd, and Cameron Brown 3rd.
Well, a great day for those 3 men as they have a little bit of fun now with the champagne. You can see Tim Reed's done this a few times. He's giving everyone a good soak.
He's really going for it, isn't he? And look at him, little champion there, the winner for 2015. As Terenzo Bozzoni comes through, he didn't have a great day today.
No, he was not one he'll remember. I think he'll just be happy to get it done in his home city.
And fair enough too, but as we know, the women are still out on course. Meredith Kessler is in control of this race, and just heading through an aid station. She's not too far away from getting back into town and the finish area.
Yeah, Meredith Kessler there has been pursued by this woman, Gina Crawford, who's done a great job to keep in contact for the last hour and a half. Meredith Kessler there just passing an age group is still looking rock solid.
She is indeed, but Gina Crawford, as you said earlier, Phil, she's just going along quite nicely now. She's recovered a wee bit, but you know, that grimace is on her face, but she's not too far away. She'll know that she's in 2nd, and she can hold that over Amelia Watkinson. But Meredith Kessler just coming around Prince's Wharf, and wonderful view. I'm sure she won't be taking that in right now, but here we have Tim Burkle. Not the great day for him either.
No, well, Tim and Terenzo might have a quiet chat after the race about where it all went wrong. Here comes Gina Crawford just checking which way she needs to go. Meredith Kessler, of course, is blazing a trail to the finish line.
Yes, she is indeed. She's been in control of this race. She had that bit of a mechanical during the bike, but other than that, she's had her nose in the front for the majority of the day.
And she's about to make that left-hand turn. The smile says it all as she hits the red carpet. The best 200 metres of her day, Meredith Kessler winning the 2015 Ironman 70.3 Auckland Asia Pacific Championship.
An Asia Pacific champion, Meredith Kessler, congratulations.
Thank you. It's so great to be here and come back to Auckland for the final time, and thank you so much for having us. What a day. No rain, no drama. Well, you know, weather-wise, you couldn't ask for a better place, and great camaraderie out there. Win-win situation for everybody.
You had a nice handy lead out of the swim, but then Gina came up to you on the bike. What was going through your head then?
Yeah, you know, I unfortunately dropped my chain and lost a couple minutes out there. Like I said, it was controlled chaos, so I hit a bump and my chain went flying and I couldn't get it back on twice. So what felt like 5 minutes was probably only, I don't know, 2, but it felt like forever. So yeah, I had a hiccup there and needed to kind of pull it together mentally, like, it's okay, it happens, at least it wasn't a puncture, it could be worse. So then tried to build up. You know, I went as hard as I could for a little bit to get the lead back as best I could.
Meredith got away a little bit, but then she had a bit of a mechanical on the bike. You got back up to her. You were right in this race.
I was sort of going about the same speed as her. I got a split, and then all of a sudden I saw her, I think her chain fell off or something like that, and then biked with her for a while. Had a little bit of mishap on the bridge. And then I'm not very good at the technical sections, and there's a lot to lose if you fall off at bigger, you know, races down the track. So I was very cautious out there, so I probably lost a bit of time there.
And Amelia Watkinson, great race from her today, rounding out the top 3. Big grin on her face, and so she should.
Well, that wraps up our women's race with Meredith Kessler taking the win. In second place, Gina Crawford. In third place, Amelia Watkinson rounding out the podium.
Well, what a magic day and what a very impressive course. Auckland and Ironman 70.3 Auckland organisers have again produced a majestic event on the New Zealand and international calendar.
And so we say thank you to Auckland, New Zealand for giving us such a perfect send-off to Ironman 70.3 Auckland, and we look forward to showcasing our newest 70.3 event this December with Ironman 70.3 Taupo.
Special thanks to the City of Auckland and our major sponsor Ports of Auckland. Thanks for watching, and congratulations to Tim Reed taking out the men's elite title and Meredith Kessler, who will reign as the Ironman 70.3 Auckland Women's Elite Champion.